Coming up on the program, it's time for us to harvest some of our Brussels sprouts. We'll also go over why your plants may not have produced sprouts. And one of the final things we have to do in the garden, it's leaves. We'll discuss why. All that and more coming up today on the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener. The Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener is sponsored by the following. MIgardener.com, over 300 varieties of non-GMO, heirloom, organic flowers, vegetables, and herb seeds, all for 99 cents. MIgardener.com. Sioux Growing Supply, located in Wausau, Wisconsin, focusing on certified leaf compost, an excellent amendment for poor soil. With their new garden blend, improving soil structure in clay and sandy soil, great for creating new garden beds. Also available from Sioux's, pre-filled trays and pots with professional potting soil mix or organic rice hull-based potting soil mix. Bag and bulk of certified leaf compost also available. Visit SiouxGrowingSupply.com. Stop before you dig. Call Digger's Hotline first. Call 3 business days before you dig. It's the law. It's completely free and it's for your safety. Know what's below before you dig. It's your responsibility. Call Digger's Hotline or visit them at diggershotline.com. HappyLeafLED.com, commercial grade grow light with a home gardener's affordability. No fans, no motors, simply plug in and grow. Great for seed starting to lettuce to full grown tomatoes, all indoors. HappyLeafLED.com. Welcome to the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener. I'm Joy Baird. We are later portions of the fall, early November, beautiful weather, but it's time to harvest some, not all, but some of our Brussels sprouts. Now, the indications of when to harvest your Brussels sprouts is you want your sprouts to be 1 to 2 inches in diameter. That's if you have a really good crop. They're closed up and they're firm. If they're open, that is an indication that the plant has gone under some stress, and also can be a contributing factor that it's been too warm. We've had some very warm fall days, and we're fortunate that the plant has not done that, or at least some of them have. We got one that has done that. Now, other factors might be, why has your Brussels sprout plant not produced the sprouts like it's supposed to? Now, we've got a couple here that looks really, really good. Now, this can be for a couple of reasons. One, it's very warm. Brussels sprouts are more of a northern climate, or if you're in the south, you might be able to you can grow them in what our winter would be, your fall and winter, to keep it cool, but not frozen. Other things, lack of nutrient. A nutrient deficiency will cause the sprouts to be small or non-existent, as well as a lack of water can also cause it not to produce properly. Now, a couple of episodes ago, or really about 2 months ago, we came in here and we topped these. We cut the top 2 or 3 inches off so it stopped growing vertical and started producing sprouts, and the book said to do it, we did it, and it worked. Now, this is not, state fair award-winning Brussels sprouts, but this is the first time in a number of years we have able to produce Brussels sprouts that produce sprouts. They didn't get that tall, and in the spring I committed only to about 60% of this bed because we'd had issues in the past with Brussels sprouts not producing Brussels sprouts, and we were very discouraged, and I didn't want to commit to a whole bed. So I just did 4 tomatoes back here, which has produced dozens of pounds of tomatoes, as well as we've got Brussels sprouts here. So the biggest and best plant here is this one right here. And since you can see on these plants that not every nook or leaf is a sprout, and that's, here or there, it's fine. Preferably you'd want a 4-foot tall sprout plant, and you have sprouts on every leaf. But nevertheless, we're going to harvest this one, cut it at the base, and then we'll, ooh. Now, these are hardy. They will withstand a frost, maybe a light freeze, but they do take a long time. We planted these back in, I think it was late March, and now it's early November. But you can see, I'm happy with this. You always want to have, triple or quadruple or 10 times fold what you have, but I'm happy with this. You can see here This here is not all the way tucked in as tight as it needs to be because it's a little immature there. But that is a good structure. Now, I talked about 1 to 2 inches in diameter and firm. These are firm. This is a very nice one. Now, if you have small ones like this here, even though it's not 1 to 2 inches, but it's firm and it's closed up, you can go ahead and harvest that because it's not going to grow any more than what it currently is. The best way to remove these is simply take a sprout, find it, and twist it off. You're going to get some of the stump or some of the plant there, the stalk, but you can come in the kitchen and trim that off and just twist these off here. That one came off better. We didn't have. Now with the Brussels sprouts, you don't have to remove the plant at harvest to harvest them. You can take off the larger sprouts and let the smaller ones grow if they do show some signs of it getting larger. But these are like little miniature cabbages. They do have a sweet flavor to them. And people say Brussels sprouts are horrible. Well, they are horrible if you bought them at the grocery store and they've been sitting on the shelf for about 9 weeks or however long it took to get from their destination. These are very sweet. You can cook them up, bake them, roast them. We add some butter and some cheese to it. Works out really well. So I'm going to harvest these and we'll talk about some of the other problems that you may be facing with your Brussels sprouts. All right, so I harvested what was on this plant. Enough for a meal here for this particular plant, but this gives us encouragement that we are able to successfully grow Brussels sprout plants and get Brussels sprouts. And the goal is each year we become more educated about the previous growing year and we're able to grow better and bigger and healthier and more luscious plants. Now, I talked about problems that you may have with your Brussels sprout. Here is one here. And we're not really certain what occurred with this. This possibly could be stem rot, could be a lot of things. But what I noticed, this was a couple months ago, that it got really slimy in this portion here. So I opened it up just to see what was going on, and it was just a slime. And I dug the slime out, it dried out, and that's what we have left. The plant's dead, but there is above where that rotted at, I mean, it just really stunk bad. These are sprouts that didn't mature that I don't feel comfortable eating because they have been above this spot here that was broken and it's all dead. So I don't feel comfortable eating them because I know they're not mature. They're very spongy, and that's indication that things aren't the way they should be. Even though this top portion is green, sometimes it's just better to say no go. But the bottom here, we have sprouts that have opened up, and this can be what I talked about, too much heat. This also could be the stress because of whatever disease this plant had. But we're going to leave them be and just see if in another couple of weeks that these things tighten back up, because we're going to get some cooler temperatures than we have had, and we'll see what will go on there. Now right here you can see on that plant just a beautiful example of what a Brussels sprout plant should be. Sprouts going all the way up the stalk. We've trimmed, we topped the top off, or we cut the top off at the same time the other ones did. Beautiful specimens. On the smaller side, but hey, I'm okay with that because this is the first time in about 4 years we have been able to grow Brussels sprouts successfully. So if you're not able or unable to grow successfully, possibly those are some reasons why. And topping them off we found to really help intensify the focus of growth on the sprout instead of the plant. So if you have minimal amount of space, can you grow a pumpkin in a container? And the answer is yes, as is demonstrated here. One thing that you need to do that we did not do is keep more water to it. This is the second pumpkin that we've had. We've had a couple on here that were tennis ball size at the max, and they dried up because we just couldn't keep enough water to it because we don't have a system hooked up on this. So this is a 15-20 gallon plastic ceramic look-alike pot. Ideally this would be better to put in a large grow bag, and we do have, I'm going to cut this off here because it is changed colors. Okay, we do have some damage to this because it was sitting on the ground like this. Now this should be a Cinderella pumpkin. They should be very large, and this is not that large, but what it has occurred here is this has been sitting on the ground like that, and we do have something that has either ate or this has rotted away, but a large majority of what this pumpkin internally is edible. So we will just cut the bad spots out, and this should be enough for at least freezing. And if you do can pumpkin, you need to pressure can pumpkin and follow the directions, because that's the only safe way to process it. But this is a 3-pound pumpkin. It's okay. We have achieved the goal of producing a pumpkin in a container. We just wish we would have put a little bit more water to the container and let it grow, more water to it. We did get some powdery mildew, and we did cut the vine back to try to put more focus on this pumpkin. But we do have a pumpkin. We did grow it in a container. It can be done. If we would have put more focus on it, it would have been better. One of the things that many gardeners fail to acknowledge is the value of free resources on their property. One of them for us is leaves. We have a massive maple tree above part of the garden, as well as neighbors on adjacent to the garden here, as well as across the street, have lots of trees, and they are more than kind enough to dump all of that in the street for the city to pick up to take to their recycling facilities. Well, we beat them to it, and we take garbage can after garbage can of shredded leaves out of the street and bring them into our garden. Now, these are clean leaves. They don't have no yard debris on them, and that's the disadvantage of if a city picks all this stuff up, takes it to their location to compost it, whether they sell it back to the citizens of the city or it's a free available resource, you don't know what's in there. Perfect example is late blight on tomatoes. It's an airborne spore, and if kept warm enough, it can continue to stay alive over the winter. It needs a cold, hard freeze to kill it off. So if you put it in your compost pile at home, or you put it in the street for the city to pick up, they may put it in the compost pile, and it may stay warm all winter long enough to keep those spores alive. Then you or someone else picks it up, brings it to your garden, and there it gets spread. So you want to be careful about that. But leaves are so nutriently packed. The tree brings all of that nutrients up from deep down in the earth, and they're such a resource that we take and spread feet of leaves on most of our garden beds here. You can shred them. The thought process in our mind is if they're in the street, we're not going to take the leaf mulcher and plug in cords across the street. We're just going to get them, bring them over as fast as we can, and just implement them in the garden. Now, there are a couple beds here where we aren't putting leaves, and that is garlic, and we've covered that in a previous episode, simply because the garlic we find does very well in without mulch on it. And you can see here, we've got all these beds, and this bed here has the garlic, but we keep mounding the leaves up, and I'll continue to do this until the tree has completely dropped all of its leaves, or the street is completely clean, because these are so valuable. Now, you may not choose to do this, and you can just pick these up whenever you see somebody has put them along the side of the road. The process that we practice here is we'll let this be, and then by spring these will decrease by about 50 to 70%. And then on the beds that we choose to work, we'll simply drag the leaves off, work the bed, put the leaves back as a mulch, and they'll continue to break down. By June, we didn't even know we had any leaves like this. We did this last year, and by June, you couldn't even tell we had done anything because they had broke down and fed the soil. So it's very important to use what's available to you, free resources. Organic and self-sustainable fertilizers are wonderful, but this is a resource in which you can use in the fall. Don't give them to the city. Don't burn them. Don't put them on the curb for somebody else to pick them up. Use them in your garden, or store them in a garage or shed to where you can use them as a mulch in the spring as well. So leaves, a tremendous resource that we have found that helps feed the soil, and it's free too. Thanks for joining us. Join us again next time for more organic gardening and food preserving. I'm Joy Barrett, and this has been the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener.
For more information, please visit thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com.